What is the biblical perspective to divorce? In Malachi 2:16, God said, I hate divorce. Couldn't be clearer than that. And why does he hate divorce? One reason is that marriage is meant to be a special covenant between a man and a woman and their God. The marriage, in a Christian marriage, the marriage is not just between a man and a woman, but it's man, woman, and God. When you say these words, I take you to be my lawful wedded wife, I promise and covenant before God and these witnesses to be your loving and faithful husband, to stand by you in riches and in poverty, in joy and in sorrow, in sickness and in health, forsaking all other as long as we both shall live. And the woman repeats these same vows to her husband. They're not agreeing to provide some personal service via a contract that would be terminated if one of them defaulted. Instead, they are entering into a covenant, the same type of sacred obligation that God made with his children. Any covenant, including the marriage covenant, is a binding, weighty obligation. In Proverbs 20:25, we read, it is a trap for a man to dedicate something rashly and only later to consider his vows. In Deuteronomy 23:23, the word says, you shall be careful to perform what goes out of your lips, just as you have voluntarily vowed to the Lord your God what you have promised. Jesus says that every careless word that men shall speak, they shall render account for it on the day of judgment. That's Matthew 12:36. As we said, God hates divorce because it tears at the very heart of God's redemptive plan for the world. Note the conversation between Jesus and the Pharisees on Matthew 19:3-9. When the Pharisees ask, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any reason at all? Jesus answered, have you not read that he who creates them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let no man separate. After Jesus referred to God's original purpose for marriage, he is asked, why then did Moses command to give her a certificate of divorce and send her away? Jesus then answered, because of your hardness of heart, Moses permitted you to divorce your wives, but from the beginning it has not been this way. God takes the wedding covenant seriously, even though we do not. However, if you are considering divorce as an inevitable resolution of a marital conflict, there are some practical things you should consider not doing when getting a divorce. Camila, can you list them for us?
This is a list of the things you shouldn't do. Leave your home, threaten or partaking in any violence, threatening to keep the kid from the other parent, keeping the kids in the dark, refusing to co-parent, threatening to financially break the other spouse, threatening to quit your job, sending stupid letters, emails, recordable voicemails to your spouse, flaunting a new relationship, purchasing a new home, and not considering alternatives to litigation. The moment that any violence occurs, or even you or your spouse threatens the other with an act of violence, then usually restraining orders happen. Criminal charge could occur if the police gets called and they decide to arrest one of you. And having a restraining order or a criminal charge for domestic violence can greatly affect your time sharing with your children, and you can also end up with criminal charges. And in addition, if the children witness any act of violence, then the Department of Children and Families will most likely get involved in the case, and this will make the dissolution of marriage even more complicated. And if an act of violence occurs and one of the parties files for a restraining order while the dissolution of marriage is still in process, then in Miami-Dade, the case will get moved to Unified Family Court, and this same judge will end up hearing the domestic violence and the dissolution of marriage. And because this judge ends up listening to all the bad things that happen in the domestic violence case, it will greatly influence the opinion or the final ruling that this judge makes in your dissolution of marriage regarding your children and your time sharing.
If there's going to be any violence, move out. Otherwise, you can stay together, you can move out. It depends on what is in the best interest of your children. In the state of Florida, the courts believe that the kids should see both their parents as much as possible. So they're going to schedule a time sharing that's going to give both parents as much time as they possibly can with their children. If your husband or your wife are not giving you support from your spouse, keeping the children away is wrong. And the courts will sanction you for that, because one thing is the support, the other thing is the time sharing. So it's not a good thing at all to keep the children from the other parent. Now, that doesn't mean that if the other parent is an alcoholic or a pedophile, some very serious situation like that, that you should leave the child having time sharing unsupervised with him or her. At that point in time, it is your obligation in looking at the best interest of your children to bring that up to the court and then try to get sole parental responsibility and supervised visitation. You both are the children's parents, and you're going to be with them all through your life. When they get married, which will be after 18, you're going to go to the wedding with your ex-wife or your ex-husband. When they get sick, you're going to both be by their side. When they have happy occasions, you're going to be both by their side. You're going to be co-parenting all of your life. So do whatever is necessary. Take classes. Go to your pastor. Do whatever you need to do to improve your co-parenting so that you do that for the benefit of your child.
When you're getting divorced, when you're having issues, children are smarter than we think. They notice everything. They sense the bad vibe, the stress that is created in the relationship. And you can start seeing that this affects them. And just don't put them in the middle of your conflicts, because it is your issues with your husband and it doesn't have to involve them. You're not divorcing because of them. You're divorcing because of issues between you and your spouse. So just try to explain it to them in a way that they don't feel like they are at fault for anything they've done. And just explain it to them in a way that you're still going to be their mom, he's still going to be their dad, and that you both love them and you're both going to be involved in their lives. You're both going to maintain a relationship with them, because you and your spouse getting divorced doesn't mean that they're not going to be having a dad or having a mom, because nothing else will change except the fact that you will be living in separate homes. But at the same time, you will be able to spend time with either of them, with both of them.
Its primary concern in any divorce is the children. They're going to be worried about things like, number one, are the children's being taken care of financially? And that means child support. And they're going to determine a child support. And if you don't pay it, they're going to get very harsh, including incarceration. So you need to pay the child support, because it's not, as I thought, when I was going to give you another bad example from me, is when I was going through the divorce, I thought it was highly inequitable, the amount of money that I was ordered to pay in child support. And so whenever my children would come to me and say, Dad, can do this and can we have this? I would say, no, I'm paying child support to your mother, so you go get it from her. That is so incorrect to do. If you have any questions regarding this topic, any questions at all regarding divorce, regarding paternity, anything having to do in the area of family law, my wife and I, all of the attorneys at Delamo Law and its staff, we're all here to help. We're available for your questions at 305-443-7005. Send us an email at info@delamolaw.com. We are located in Coral Gables, 3211 Ponce de Leon Boulevard, Suite 200. And for more information, 305-443-7005. Or you can visit our website at delamolaw.com. God bless.